Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan and today I thought we would talk about some of the players that no one seems to be talking about. There are some real nice hidden gems to be had in FPL and they all come in at really nice cheap prices. No one's even really noticed that these are really good picks. Maybe a few of you guys have, but today we're going to go through all 8 of them. I think you're going to like these little differential, interesting and strange and wonderful picks that I think could have a really good season. If you enjoy this one, guys, drop a like and do subscribe if you are new around here too. So first of all, João Pedro. So he is a player who played every single game of Brentford's season last year, but it was a lot of the time off the bench, 22 bench appearances there. And in the first half of the season, certainly, he didn't really get too much game time. But what happens with Wissa is that when Tony is not playing, he is the main central forward. He is the striker. And we know that Ivan Toney is going to be out till January. So we do have a replacement forward in Wissa. Now, we saw at the end of last season, he was scoring goals for fun. He was getting assists for fun. He was really a really super important, crucial player in the attack for Brentford. And when Brentford scoring goals, it's going to be between Mbeumo and Wissa. A lot of people are going for Mbeumo already, but with the forward position not really supplying too many interesting players, it might be a good place to go for that differential and take a Wissa instead of an Mbeumo. If you have so many midfielders that you want to have in your team already, maybe Wissa is your way to get into the Brentford attack. 6 million is super cheap as well, so that's really nice. Only 2.8% of FPL managers have currently got him in their team. Really good fixtures as well. I think he could have a really good start to the season and basically become the temporary Tony, I guess. So let's all wish upon a star that Wissa will do very well at the start of this FPL season. From one Brentford player to another Brentford player, we have got Flekken, and Flekken is the new goalkeeper at Brentford. So we're all kind of expecting Raya to disappear from FPL very shortly, or at least move club within the Premier League. But we're expecting him to leave Brentford, unfortunately. And luckily for Brentford, they have already signed a replacement from Freiburg, and that is Flekken. So if you're looking for the Raya of this year, then why not stick with Brentford and go for another Brentford goalkeeper? He had a really good season at Freiburg last season, 13 clean sheets in 34 games. That's not too bad at all, really. So really impressive stuff from him. And I think with the Brentford defence, he's going to have a certain amount of save opportunities from kind of long shots. But Brentford in general are a team that keeps a lot of clean sheets as well. So if you're looking for a 4.5 million goalkeeper, and we know Raya is kind of leaving Brentford, Flekken could be the 4.5 million goalkeeper to go for, and nobody even knows who he is, and that's the beauty of videos like this. And how about this guy, João Pedro, a 5.5 million forward who plays for Brighton. Not too many people talking about him. He's just signed from Watford for £30 million, and that is quite a lot of money. And when I look at Brighton, I feel like Brighton would not spend £30 million on a 21-year-old forward if they were not confident in this guy. And there is reason to be confident. He's a player who is kind of seen as a guy who has a lot of potential. He scored 11 goals and got 4 assists in the Championship last season for Watford. But you imagine in this Brighton team that is so creative, creates so many chances, he can really thrive. Now, is he going to be a starting player or not? And I think this is the one question looming over Pedro just a little bit. But my answer to that is, why not? If Brighton are spending that much money on a player, they probably intend to play him. And the great thing about Pedro is that he can play in a variety of different positions. He has played as a striker, he can play behind the striker, he can play in an attacking midfield position, he can play on either wing, though he does prefer to play on the left wing. So there's a lot of variety of opportunities for Pedro. Not exactly sure where he's going to line up. Is he going to be the new starting striker? Is he going to play off the left? Is he going to play as a second striker maybe, as we saw a lot with kind of McAllister playing as the second striker a little bit last season towards the end? Could that be João Pedro's new role in the team? I think it's very possible that this could be a new star in the making, and definitely an interesting, differential, unheard of player that could come into our FPL teams and dominate. Could be him. I don't see why not. Looks good. And how about Emmanuel Benson? 0.6% of FPL managers currently have him in their team, and that's probably because it's Burnley, and people think of Burnley as being a defensive team. It's not really the case for Burnley anymore. They're now very much an attacking team. And another problem with Benson is that we look at his kind of games last season. He had 33 appearances, but 19 of them were sub-appearances, so that's not really what we're looking for. But despite that, he still managed to score 12 goals and 3 assists. So what we can see from this is that per minute played, he clearly is a very, very effective player. Now, here is where things get interesting. So Benson plays on the wing, primarily the right wing, but he can play on either wing. And what's great about Benson is that Nathan Tella, who was on loan to Burnley from Southampton, it doesn't look like Tella is going to come back to Burnley right now. It looks like they can't quite afford him. So that means that Benson is going to take his place and be a main starting winger. Now, to be fair, Benson probably should have been starting more games for Burnley last season anyway, because he is genuinely one of their best players. And if we're going to see more minutes from Benson, that means that we're going to see much, much more goals. I'm just really impressed to see that just 14 starts, and this guy got 12 goals and 3 assists. He's only 5.5 million as a midfielder. He's going to be a real goal threat. He's going to be on some set pieces as well. He takes some corners. I think overall, if this is kind of a real differential, if you want to dip in on Burnley, if you have any faith in Burnley, I think Benson is going to be their star man this season, and you can pick him up for such a cheap price. Next up, Matty Cash, and he's not exactly an unknown player. I think most of us have probably heard of Matty Cash at Aston Villa, but one thing that should be said about Cash is that he is kind of a forgotten man. A lot of people have kind of forgotten about him. He did have his injury problems last season, which kind of took him out of the team, particularly when Aston Villa were doing very well. Cash often wasn't in the team because of his injuries, but if he is fit and available for the new season, and we expect him to be, he could be back to his best, and his best is very, very good. Guys, you have to remember that in the 2020-21 season, Matty Cash was voted Aston Villa Player of the Year because he was so good for them. So if we're hoping for a revitalised Aston Villa team coming off the back of some really, really nice results at the end of last season, on an upward trajectory, signing new players, Pau Torres has obviously come into the Aston Villa team as well to shore up their defence. So there's going to be more clean sheets. We saw a lot of them at the end of last season. Cash is going to obviously have attacking potential there. We've seen it in the past. We just need to see him back, fit and available, and I don't see why that wouldn't be the case, because he hasn't really had too many injury problems in the past. It's just kind of been an off season for him, where he's only managed to kind of get 20 starts last season, and they were kind of closer to the beginning of the season. He's been dropped down to 4.5 million. Now, in previous seasons, we've seen him at like 5.5 million, to be fair. So at 4.5, this forgotten man could be a real bargain, a real opportunity to get some attacking returns, to get some clean sheets for a real cheap price. I think Matty Cash could be back this year, and with a bang, in a better Aston Villa team. Okay, so whilst everyone is talking about Amari Bell as their 4 million defender, how about George Baldock? So Baldock is another 4 million wingback who is pretty much a nailed-on starter for their team. So Sheffield United are obviously a team that are slightly better defensively than Luton. We can kind of see last season Baldock got 14 clean sheets in 33 starts. That's pretty decent, to be fair. That's a clean sheet every other game, and if they can even get a clean sheet, you know, once every 4 or 5 games, that's going to be enough for your 4 million defenders. He is also a wing back, so we're going to see him bombarding up the pitch a decent amount. He got a goal and 3 assists last season, which is very, very nice indeed. So why go for an Amari Bell, who, by the way, guys, I know he is technically a wing back, but actually Bell kind of played at left centre back a lot of the time last season. But Baldock is just like a straight up right wing back, pretty much nailed on as well. The games he did miss last season were through injury primarily, so that's why he hasn't got like 42 games or something like that. So definitely a player you want to keep an eye on. I think he could be the best 4 million defender in the game currently, and yet no one's really talking about him. Morgan Gibbs-White. What an underrated player. Honestly, I think this guy is so underrated. People don't appreciate how good this guy is. Now, what is really interesting about Gibbs-White is his price tag and how well he did towards the end of last season. And when you look at this, guys, 5 goals and 12 assists, that is 17 goal contributions from a newly promoted team, a player who is very, very cheap, a player who's listed as a midfielder. He's a player who basically plays behind the striker anyway. He plays super far forward. up the pitch. And another thing is, he is now on penalties for Nottingham Forest. We saw at the end of last season, Gibbs-White took over penalty taking duties as well. So we've got here a 6 million midfielder who is going to be on penalties, nailed on to start every single game for Nottingham Forest. Incredibly creative with an eye for goal as well. There is a lot to love about this guy, and he's going to be such a differential. Not many people are going to go for him. I know the fixtures aren't amazing, but I look in game week 2, home game against Sheffield United. You feel like Gibbs-White could do something special in that game. Wouldn't be surprised if he got multiple attacking returns in a game like that. Really do think he is definitely worth a shout, worth you guys considering. And finally, Enciso. A few people have already started speaking about Enciso as the hidden gem of the new season, and that's because he's amazing. He is just like a star boy. He is a serious talent. Seriously, where did he come from? Paraguay. But where is he going? He's going to the top, I'm telling you. He's another one of those Brighton players who comes out of nowhere and just looks like an absolute superstar. He's still a teenager, so still very young. He's going to be constantly improving. Started getting some game time towards the end of last season, and a lot of people think that Enciso is either going to play behind the striker or possibly on the wing, maybe right wing, maybe left wing. We're not sure. It depends on who's starting out of Kaoru Mitoma, Solly March. There's going to be a little bit rotation with those guys, you imagine, because of the European football. But in general, Enciso at 5.5 million could do even better than a Solly March, even better than a Kaoru Mitoma. We can genuinely see that happening. He is good enough to do it. He's already got, what, 4 goals, 3 assists in only 7 starts last season. That is absolutely mad. It's ludicrous. He was listed as a forward last season as well, so he didn't get quite as many points. But this season, he's now listed as a midfielder, which means he's going to pick up an extra point for a goal. He is going to pick up an extra point for clean sheets as well. And Brighton do keep clean sheets, by the way. And he got the odd bonus point as well during his short time, during his limited minutes in a Brighton shirt. So I think this is a really interesting one. We've got fantastic fixtures as well. If anyone is kind of looking to downgrade Mitoma to maybe save some cash maybe, or wants to go for another Brighton attacker, then Enciso is definitely worth a shout at 5.5 million. Yeah, I think he is probably the hidden gem that will not be hidden for much longer. Alright guys, those are my hidden gems. Now I want you guys to tell me who yours are, if you are willing to share with the group. I'm sure you guys have got some hidden gems hidden up your sleeves as well. If you enjoyed this one, please do drop a like, do subscribe if you are new around here as well. We've got 2 other videos uploaded since the launch, so make sure you do go check them out if you're at all interested. Check out our Fantasy Football Hub as well. I've left the link down in the description if you want to go check them out as well. And that's pretty much it from me today, so thank you so much for watching guys, so much, and I will see you later, mates. Bye bye.